Spookyou's frightening nights of Halloween.
Hello, my dear Franken friends, and welcome to Spookyou, your one-stop shop for all things ghastly and ghoulish. I'm your host, Barnabas Vixen, and we've reached night 9 of Spookyou's Frightening Nights of Halloween. Tonight and every night leading up to that spooktacular night in October, All Hallows Eve, or as you mundane mortals like to call it, Halloween. Now do me a favor, will you? Come a bit closer. Shh, it's a secret. I can't tell just anyone. Closer. Closer. Just a little bit closer. There. Now, what I'm about to tell you is super important, so remember it well. Oh, I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's spooky season after all. And what better way to celebrate spooky season than with a grand event? Shameless plug, Spookyou's All Hallows Eve Bash is on Halloween Day. Enjoy a 24-hour live radio of scary stories all in the comfort of your own home, or out in the middle of the woods. Whatever floats your boat. Now, before I pass the reins on over to our vivacious voiceover virtuoso, I need to thank our fine sponsor, the Scottish Hush Puppy. He's been a supporter of our channel since its initial conception, when we were but a fledgling idea in the uncultivated mind of our creator. Hush Puppy watered and nurtured that idea and even gave us food when we were hungry. See Night 2 for sponsored donation. Thank you, Hush Puppy, for your motherly nurturing and undying support. Now let's move on to tonight's story. The year is 2264, and you're a member of a scouting crew in space. You're scouting out a new planet to colonize, one just outside your solar system. You're the chief engineer, and Edgar, an engineer, just woke up and he seems to be very sick. However, the medical team can't figure out why. The whole ship is sterile, plus everyone had to go through a health screening before coming aboard. The head doctor tells you that it seems as though Edgar's body is spontaneously decaying. Without any known treatment, quarantine is the only solution. Later, the same thing happens to 2 more people. The medical team tries to figure out how it spreads, yet they come up with nothing, and at this point the captain is trying to contact the nearest space station. However, there is no signal, so she tries to contact any she can. Still, no signal though. So your team tries to repair the communication system, but you can't determine the problem. Everything seems fine. As time passes, more and more people get sick until you seem to be the only healthy one left. In a desperate attempt to save yourself, you leave in an escape pod. On the way back to the space station, your navigation system mysteriously fails. On the bright side, you have plenty of resources to survive for weeks. Also, your pod is relatively large, almost as big as a small ship. The next day you wake up hearing a mysterious scratching sound. You cannot find where it's coming from, and after about 5 minutes the sound fades away and you forget about it moments later. That night you manage to fall asleep just fine, despite the scratching sound coming and going throughout the day. The next day the scratching is still there, and still you manage to mostly ignore it. That afternoon you look out the window and you see something interesting out of the corner of your eye. It's a space object unlike anything you've ever heard or seen. It looks like a neon purple planet with a pink ring. You don't know how this is possible, yet, on the other hand, you aren't an astronomer, a physicist, or anything like that. You're only an engineer. And of course, you're far from ignorant on such subjects, however. That's how you get to be part of the scouting crew. They only wanted the best of the best on that mission. Either way, you're not going to find out what it is. It's not important anyways. With each passing day, you grow increasingly lonely. You even start to talk to yourself, both to stave off the loneliness, as well as to drown out that frustrating scratching noise. As time passes, you see ever more strange things in the corner of your eyes as well as in space, and eventually space looks incredibly bizarre to you. Now you're lonely, lost in space, hearing mysterious scratching and seeing things. It's all driving you mad and you regularly cry yourself to sleep. However, a few days later you wake up to something that gives you hope. Your pod has drifted near a planet, not just any planet. The pod scanners say it has water and even artificial structures. But you don't recognize this planet. Still, you hold on to the hope that it's inhabited by humans, so you land on this planet, put on your spacesuit, and get out. But still, you don't see anyone. You only see a city of weird-looking buildings. You search for someone, anyone, yet you find no one. And you get exhausted surprisingly quick. However, as you're about to give up, you spot a building with light shining out from inside it. You excitedly run into it. You don't see any people, but you do see a video playing on loop. It is a strange video, however, and after a few minutes you realize something. The video is visually explaining what happened to everyone. You learn that this planet was inhabited by another species. First, they realized that some unknown force had scrambled all transmissions in and out of their solar system. They couldn't fix it no matter what they did, and shortly after they sent a crew to colonize a planet outside their solar system. A plague started spreading all around their planet, and shortly after you watch the video, you begin to feel woozy, and you cough up blood.
Excuse me, dear listeners, but it is time for a break. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to the Scottish Hush Puppy, and he's going to drone on for about a minute or two about his channel. Feel free to use this as a snack or bathroom break, but don't dally, this won't take long. Take it away, Hush Puppy.
Salutations, good people. I'm the Scottish Hush Puppy, and salutations to all you good people over there at Spookyou, all the subscribers, listeners, and even you, Barnabas. And before I tell you who I am, I want to give a sincere thank you to everybody at the channel for allowing me to be your sponsor for the Frightening Nights of Halloween series that's going to be taking place on October the 18th. So make sure you're subscribed. Do not miss that, because if you're anything like me, you love a good spooky story. And what better place than the YouTube channel you're watching right now? Now, what is a Scottish Hush Puppy, and what does it do? Well, over at our channel, we do a lot of live streams. We stream a lot of horror games, especially through the month of October. And we stream a variety of games when it's not October. And we love to have people watch us live, and we want to provide a family-friendly environment for anybody, absolutely anybody, to come in, hang out, and make it feel more like a casual hangout than a live stream. Because usually everybody in the chat, they're all friends, and we can't wait to see you in one of our live streams in the upcoming foreseeable future. So, that being said, I just might be narrating one of these Frightening Nights stories. And of course, all this is leading up to the big live stream on Halloween itself. And I might be popping up there as well. So don't miss it. Hit subscribe on that Spookyou button. Annihilate it. And until next time, I've been the Scottish Hush Puppy, and I got some food to go eat.
Oh, finally back, huh? Well, I mean, while you were gone, we were going to wait on you, but you took so long picking out a snack that, well, we've just gone ahead and left you, so you'll have to join the story in progress. Seriously, some people. Can you believe this? This guy.
This happened about 8 years ago, and I've never told this story in its entirety. Anyways, I was hanging out with one of my female friends one night, and we decided to go for a walk to a nearby park. We had a bottle of spiced rum that we had planned on drinking once we got there, but we ended up having some on the way. The walk to the park was about 2 or 3 miles from where we started, and it took us a little over half an hour to get there. So it was around 7 p.m. early fall in Minnesota, and it had just started getting dark when we got to the park. We're talking and drinking and messing around on the park equipment for a little while before we decide to go sit on one of the benches they have there. It's getting a little later at this point and a bit cold when the sun was setting, so we just huddled up on the bench and continued drinking and talking for another good hour. So the sun finally sets and we're just having a casual conversation about God knows what when we start hearing this low hum. Neither of us thought too much about it, thinking it's just construction or traffic or whatever, and seeing as how we're in a public park in a very populated part of town with houses within throwing distance in any direction, we ignored it and continued our conversation as it got darker. We really didn't have a plan for what we were doing after, opting to just see where the night takes us. Here's where it gets weird. As we were just chilling on the bench, we were facing an open baseball field with minimal fencing. It's dark by now, and as we're talking, we start hearing the low hum again, but this time, it's louder and we can kind of hear which direction it's coming from. So we both stop and look across the field and see what looks to be a shadow. We sit there and watch it for a second as it kind of sways, thinking maybe it's just a person, but about 30 seconds pass and this thing starts getting larger and closer. We're freaking out now because this black mass is probably about 12 feet tall and maybe 6 feet across coming towards us, and it gets within about 20 yards of us and then nothing. I blacked out, waking up the next morning on the porch in my mother's house about a mile away from where we were. I had this terrible headache, although that may have just been from the rum. My mom is freaking out, asking why I have cuts and bruises everywhere, thinking I got into a fight or something, and I told her I had no idea. So I sat there for a couple hours trying to recollect my night, trying to figure out what happened. And then I get a call from the friend I was with, and she's in the hospital with a broken wrist and a few scrapes. She asked me what happened, and I didn't have an answer. She told me she didn't remember anything after the low hum and woke up in the hospital. To this day, I have no idea what actually happened that night. And I've since lost contact with the friend I was with, but last time I talked to her, she had no more answers than me. Honestly, I would love to know if anyone has had anything similar happen. If anyone is interested in where this happened, look up Cavell Park in northeast Minneapolis, Minnesota. I haven't heard of anything else happening in this area, so I don't have anything to go on. I would just like some answers.
Oh great, another outro. Look, I appreciate you sticking around, but that does mean that tonight is over and we're inching closer and closer to the end of October. And while I love Halloween and all things spooky, I'm not adept at coping with change, or goodbyes, or even see you laters. I mean, we're nearing the end of spooky season, for crying out loud. Hey, quit your snickering. Even monsters have feelings, you know. Besides, here at Spookyou, our spookiness knows no bounds. We're going to be bringing you terrifying tales all year round. And we don't really believe in the concept of too much of a good thing. I mean, that's preposterous. If that were the case, they would have fired me a long time ago. Anyways, if you've been with us through the entirety of our Frightening Night series thus far and you haven't subscribed, well, what are you waiting for? With our luck, you'll croak before you smash that button, and then we'll have to cut into our budget just to reanimate you to do this one simple task. Well, and then it's remedial tasks from there on out. I mean, if we're forking out the cash, you're at least doing the dishes. Oh, and hit that like button, too. It helps make us look good to the YouTube deities and pushes our content out into the World Wide Web. That way, newcomers and long-timers alike can discover our content. Or something like that. Hey, I'm just a monster reading a script voiced by some guy behind a mic. What do I know? Well, we'll see you tomorrow night for another episode of our Frightening Nights of Halloween. Until then, my ghastly gang, stay spooky.